What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Soccerwise for a very special episode. Tommy Scoops is with us, myself, of course, Federico Higuain, and the legend himself, Gonzalo Higuain, in the building. We are back together. Matt Doyle is with us to bring the numbers, to bring the juice. If you've seen the title, you know we are talking over-unders. Doyle, I'm excited to be together again.
Yeah, I'm jacked to be on the show. This is, I think, my first appearance on Soccerwise of 2025. First of, I hope many. I hope you guys will invite me back after this one, but I guess we'll have to see how it goes.
Yeah, I think Tom really likes to talk numbers and data and stats and stuff. So as long as you keep bringing numbers like you did today, I think Tom's going to be ecstatic.
What Tom wants to talk about is I'm driving to Connecticut this morning for CBS, and the Welcome to Connecticut sign says Pizza Capital of the United States. Are you joking? Are you kidding me? What is happening here? You just get to say dumb things in your state? That's what happens?
I think at this point, everybody understands that New Haven's the best pizza city in the country.
Who?
It's just consensus.
Nobody knows New Haven exists.
Anybody who's had pizza in Connecticut understands that. Like, I don't ride for Connecticut for a lot. There's a reason I left that place almost 30 years ago, and I do not intend to live there ever again.
This is how I feel about Long Island.
It is objectively a better pizza state than any other. And I say this as someone who lives walking distance to Chrissy's, to Pauly G's, to Lindustry, like three of the consensus best pizza shops in New York City, and they wouldn't crack the top 5 in New Haven.
Big Sbarro guy, are you?
Buddy,
I love that Tom,
you're the bridge and tunnel crowd, man.
I love that Tom also doesn't respect New York City pizza. There's one good pizza place in Tom's life, and it is 7 minutes away from his house.
Tom only wants
respect
a pie
it.
that has a bowl of macaroni dumped on it like he's a freaking child.
Doyle, just to tell you, you're not going to win on the ZD Slice debate. I'm ZD Slice as well. That's true New Yorker energy. Yeah.
Oh, my God. All right.
So, over-unders on how often we will piss each other off. The number is set pretty high and yet is still competitive. What we are doing here is something that Tom is very excited about, hence he's wearing his full bookie outfit for this show. We are going to go through every single team in Major League Soccer. We have a special computer that we have thrown a bunch of data and numbers into, and then it has spit back out an over-under for a points mark for every single team in MLS for the 2025 season. If you want, we, of course, also have our single team previews that are coming out and pushing around. I think we've got 8 more to drop this weekend, another 4 that have already been recorded, and all of that. But this is going to give us an opportunity to talk a little more general about all the teams coming up. If you are watching live, jump into the chat and tell us why you think we're wrong or think we're right, or what numbers you want to see. We already have the TFC over-under line set at 12 in the chat by Mike Forbes, so it could be a really successful thing. If you're listening via podcast, jump into the Discord, subscribe, get into the Patreon, get into the Discord, and you could talk with us about these lines and everything else going on as well. We are having a ton of fun in there as we get ready for the 2025 season. But Doyle, you present these numbers. You have all of this with you. I believe we're going to start at the top, so we'll start with Toronto FC.
Yeah, I think Mike from the chat is a little optimistic with the over-under at 12. No, just so everybody knows, we would have taken it from a sports book, right? Like sports books in for any other sport, they have like wins over-under, and they don't have wins, they don't have points, they don't have anything. So I had to kind of like make this up on my own. I got some input from producing Anders. I got some input from a couple other friends who are pretty sharp about MLS. I did ask the gang at American Soccer Analysis because they actually have the computer and they're running this. They just weren't able to get it up in time. But they eyeballed my over-unders and they were like, okay, This seems good to me. It'll be good content at least. But I'm jacked about doing this because look, Tom and I are big fans of the Bill Simmons, Ryan Russillo over-under pod for NBA every year. Goss, of course, hates that. Hates that. But it's the one pod I look forward to most every single year.
But honestly, Zach Lowe started doing it over the last few years, and I do look forward to that.
Hopefully Zach will be back at some point. But yeah, let's start. Let's jump in at the top. I set the over-under for Inter Miami. They have the highest in the league at 65.5 points. And I'm just going to leave it there. Go ahead.
I'm gonna start. I'm going under. I'm going under. I think that there's too many defensive cracks. I think that yes, they're gonna brute force their way to points like they did last year. They can still have an excellent season and go under 65.5. I just think that's too high given Champions League, Club World Cup, and I believe that they're in another cup competition. Should be Leagues Cup. So they're gonna be stretched pretty thin, and I got questions about defensive transition. Once again,
They set the points record last year, and then the year before, Supporter Shield was 69 points. The year before that,
Nice.
two teams tied at 67. And then right before that, you have the Revs, of course, at 73. I think, Tom, I assume your point being they can go under this and still win the Supporter Shield, or you don't think they can win the Shield?
They're not my Shield pick. I think that they can, absolutely, but they're not my Shield pick.
Okay, I'm going to say over on this one. I think you have Messi for the full year. You don't have a Copa America. As much chaos as there is around this club, they set the points record last year, and Tata Martino quit like 3 days later. So if you think that things are going to go wrong around Inter Miami, that still probably puts you in a first place in the East conversation, and that probably brings you above 65.
David Martinez and Max Falcone in central defense from the jump. Redondo's already there. He doesn't have to integrate. They'll trust Yannick Bright from the jumps. That should help them in defensive transition as well. Go ahead, Tom.
I want to say that they wildly overperformed their XG, which is going to happen with a team that has Lionel Messi and Luis Suarez. But they vastly overperformed it. They also led the league in points gained from losing positions. I like those are not repeatable actions.
So historically, they have been from Messi's teams. I'll just say that they have. And like to your point about fixture congestion, I look at this roster. This is the deepest roster I've ever seen. Like it's even deeper, I think, than last year's because last year's team had to scramble at right back. They had to scramble at center back. And this year, Toto Alvarez has like 5,000 minutes of MLS experience. He's their third center back. They have an actual starting caliber right back this year. And they went out and they got a couple. Look, I just think this team is going to be really, really good. I almost raised the line. The one thing that gives me pause, do you guys know how many teams in MLS history have ever had 60 points in back-to-back seasons?
60 points in back-to-back seasons. The Galaxy must have done it in the Keane years. So I'm going to say 3 teams ever.
0 teams
have
ever had 60-plus points in back-to-back seasons.
None of the Red Bulls teams did it?
None of the Red Bulls teams did it.
Wow.
Yeah. So that, like, I mean, it's Messi, so we're talking about a team that would have to make history. I think they're gonna. I think they're gonna win the Supporter Shield again. I think they're gonna go over 65.5 points. I don't think they'll break the record they set last year, but I just think it's gonna look and feel like a better team. To your point, Tom, I don't think they're gonna have to overperform as much as they did in 2024.
So 2 of us over, and then Tom under. It sounds like. All right, Doyle.
Is anybody making notes? I feel like we should.
I am. I just wrote it down.
Good thing that we're recording a podcast that's going to live. Those are the notes.
59.5. I have 2 teams at 59.5. The Seattle Sounders and FC Cincinnati. I had Cincinnati a little lower beforehand, but then I just looked at that roster, and that roster is stacked. So
I was just saying, in my notes, I had 58.5. I don't care. Take the extra point. I don't need it. I'm going over on that one. Over on both of these, actually, if we're doing them as a combo.
Okay. I'm going to go over on both of them as well, actually.
Is one of these teams your Supporter Shield pick, Tom?
Yes, Cincinnati.
Oh, you're all in on Evander?
I think that they're going to score 1 billion goals, and this will be the happy season. So even if you're worried about him being upset, he's best behavior year 1. Everything's going to be great. So with this line, so I was trying to look at like the recent years history. It's difficult to go too far back because the playoffs change every year and the teams change every year. But over the last couple years, at least 2 teams have always gone over 59.5 points. Last year, it was 4 teams above 59.5. Do you guys think that we're going to see more prevalence of a 60-point teams in MLS so that there's bigger disparity from the top and the bottom now?
I think there are fewer bad teams in the league this year. I look at the rosters and, other than our friends in Toronto and probably DC, I just think that there's not as much dead weight as there was in 2024. And I think the coaching is so much better. If you look at the way teams are prepared week after week. And I think Toronto will take a big step forward in that regard by having Robin Fraser in there. So I just don't think there's as many free points out there. So it wouldn't shock me if there's a little tightening of the entire table this year. Like, not back to what it was like 10 years ago, but definitely a little tighter than what we saw in 2024.
I would also add the differences in cup tournaments this year, having good teams play Leagues Cup and not have to play as, you know, the worst teams not having those games. So having rest in those spots, Open Cup being sprinkled in oddly for some teams. I think that affects stuff. Like, you look at the Sounders, right? The Club World Cup, I'm just looking at the schedule right now, comes right in between them playing Vancouver on one side, Austin on the other. And then Leagues Cup for them, they play Atlanta. Then they go into Leagues Cup. They come out of Leagues Cup on August 6th. They play the Galaxy on August 10th. So, like, I think Seattle is one of the Shield favorites for me. But, like, that's a pain in the ass to have to deal with on both sides of that. And so that, I think, could be a threat. But I still have them over on this number.
They have so much depth with the moves. Like, again, Paul Arriola isn't, I don't think, a locked-on starter. You know, Paul Rothrock. Like, they have, I think, so many different combinations in all three phases of the game, in attack, midfield, and defense, that I considered the fixture congestion, and I just think that they have too many options and too many consistent options within MLS. Always a worry about a rash of injuries to come to a team in CONCACAF Champions Cup at all, let alone the Club World Cup and Leagues Cup. So that's definitely something worth considering, and you could see maybe not the wheels falling off, but you could see them kind of having to grind to stay high up the standings. But I think that there's just so much depth that they can handle a couple injuries and a lot of rotation.
If I made it 61.5, are you both still over?
Oh.
I think I would go under on Cincinnati, and I think I would still hold on Seattle, but it makes me sweat.
So you're 100% convinced Cincinnati is going to end up on 60 or 61 points?
No, but I'm closer than the 100% convinced they're going to end up on 62 plus points.
Try to put, can I take a push on one of these? I'll hit exactly. Do I get any extra points?
I don't understand not being worried about the time it takes for Cincinnati to be settled in, like at the start of the year.
So I think part of that is their game model, right? Like, I think that Pat Noonan has done a really good job from day one of simplifying the game model and, like, making sure that everybody's in positions that works for them. And one of the things that broke last year was, like, Lucho just stopped doing that. It was like, if you look at last year's second half of last season, how many goals or at least chances did Cincinnati give up where Lucho's 70 yards from goal, trying to dribble, 1v2 along the left touchline, and everybody's trying to orient themselves around him. What the fuck? It's just not, like, it didn't work at that level. And I don't think Evander's that eager to drop that deep and get his touches. Like, he's showed it. He played under Phil freaking Neville, man. Like, he's like, you're not building from the back under Phil Neville.
Yeah.
You're just getting your touches in transition. So I think that simplicity and being like, hey, let's get the ball on this guy's freaking foot with space to run and room to run in behind from our $18 million striker and Luca Orellano and whoever you got, DeAndre Yedlin on one side and the new guy on the other side. So
my worry in that is not that side of the ball, but the other side of how you're setting the tone counter-pressing with Denke having never played with Orellano, who won't train, and Evander, who's never been there before. And that's my fear of are they just 5 weeks behind? And then I'm not talking about a team that's
but everybody
struggle.
sucks in the first 5 weeks.
Yeah, fair.
No, seriously.
If you try hard and you have Miazga and Miles Robinson set up, then yes.
And I think Obina Devoto is going to be really good again this year too.
Yeah.
So
That's where my mind's at. This back three, this is the strongest three defensive center backs pairings. Like, with Miazga, Robinson, and Hadabe, you're gonna win games.
You've
with
always
one
been
goal.
a big teenage Hadabe guy. That's you, man.
I'm sorry. Was Matt Miazga the 2023 MLS Defender of the Year? Miles Robinson, a U.S. national team center back. I'm sorry. Is the third center back not best 11 for you? Is that not good enough? Is this accurate?
Tom just dresses like a teenager at all times.
Show everybody your teenage tattoo. Come on, buddy.
So
what a weird thing to angle in on. Just what an odd thing to angle. And you just made fun of Portland Timbers and Evander
All right,
and the attacker of Phil Neville.
I'm moving us
They
along.
scored a billion goals last year.
So to be clear, we're all over on both of those, right?
It seems like it, yeah.
Okay.
You just wanted to disagree with me.
LAFC, 56.5 points.
Goss, you haven't gone first yet.
Okay, I'm gonna go over here.
I made these lines too low.
No, I don't think you did. I think we're just getting into the teams. We're going to start to get into the teams we believe in less. Doyle, you said it on our preview show we did with Happy Foot, Sad Foot Pod of it may not be pretty, but it's going to fit. Like everything they've done this offseason is to fit what Steve Cherundolo has played most often. And I just think it's more cohesive with enough returning talent that if it takes a little bit for whoever else is on the wing to settle in, whether it's David Martinez or whoever, like Bouanga can carry things.
It better be David Martinez. If it's not, then what are we doing?
I don't disagree with you, but like he's a young player that you need to have play at the level consistently until Tom's lookalike Antoine Griezmann shows up in the league. So
the nicest thing you've ever said to me.
Yeah, probably. It's going to look good. You've got extra UConn blood in there and Kosi Tafari. So like there's a lot to be positive about in this team.
I do like that. I will say I'm going to pick under just by a bit. I think this is like a mid 50s team. Like if they had kept Kike Oliveira,
yeah,
I think that they would have had a little bit more juice to handle the fixture congestion. I'm a big David Martinez fan, but like he's 18. Bouanga is going to be carrying a lot. Olivier Giroud looked cooked. Jeremy Abobasi's been rough the past. Like I love that signing, but he's been rough the past couple of years. Nkosi Tafari, I thought was best 11 caliber in 2023. He was benched last year.
He has literally never played next to a starting MLS center back in his entire career.
No, I'm like
it's just wild to think about.
Yeah, no, I wrote in my breakout players piece. I was like, this could be the year for Nkosi Tafari. Like he has the talent to be absolutely, but like they changed so much, and I think it ended up in a place where they really only have one club to play. Right, they're going to play that 5-2-3, and they're going to be excellent at it. But I liked this team better over the past couple of years when they tried to have a little bit of the ball and play that 4-3-3 a little bit.
Yeah, I'm leaning over. I've kind of went back and forth on this one because I can see that path where they're just really solid and 53 to 55 points, but like they've just shown such consistency. And you look at a lot of the players they brought in, Mark Delgado. This style lends itself well. Yes, it's not going to be the most aesthetic. It's not going to be the Crew, or it's not going to be Messi's Miami in terms of possession and breaking teams down with the ball. But they're really, really good at the fastball they have. So and that really works over the regular season. And Denny Bouanga, I don't want to jinx it, but he's a robot. The dude is never injured and never tired. So as long as that's happening, they're going to win a lot of games.
I remember I wrote something like that about Gio Reyna. Like literally a week before his hamstring exploded. That was back in 2021, and like he's never been the same. So I hope you didn't just jinx Denny Bouanga the way I jinxed Gio Reyna.
You wrote about a 17-year-old player that they hadn't been hurt before?
I wrote that he seemed like he was indestructible and that he seemed like he was made for CONCACAF World Cup qualifiers.
Oh, God.
You spiked the ball a little early on that one is all I'm trying to say.
Fair. So you're over?
Yeah, I'm over.
And Dave, you're over?
Yeah.
All right. I'm going under with LAFC, not by a lot. Obviously, I'm the guy who made the line, so I think they're pretty accurate. 54 and a half.
Trading.
Yeah. 54 and a half. I have the Galaxy, and I have Atlanta United. And I haven't gone first, so I'm going to tell you. I'm slightly over on the Galaxy, and I'm slightly under on Atlanta United. I had to be talked into moving them up to 54 and a half.
I'm under on both of them.
We've seen so many times over the past 5 years, everybody's like, oh my God, look at this Atlanta United roster. They spent so much money. It's going to be so good. And each of the last 5 years, I've been like, yes, this team is going to compete in the Eastern Conference. And like, we're doing it again. And like, I don't know.
Under. I fell for it again. Over. Let's go. Hope for eternal. And then I trust the pieces that are in place more in terms of like the infrastructure. Again, like Garth Lagerwey to Chris Henderson to Ronnie Dyla and Miguel Almiron. All these are repeatable. I like the structure here. I think it's an over for me.
I just got to read this. Henry Elliott in the chat said Doyle's first writing gig was talking about how unsinkable the new ship, quote, the Titanic is, which is such a good line off the back of that. I'm under on both these teams. I think we're underestimating just how much loss there is for the Galaxy. Not just Ricky Puig, but now you add Payne still inside of that. I love the Christian Ramirez pickup. I think they're going to be a cup contender when we get to the playoffs. I just don't think they're going to be consistently there for most of the season. And I think in this 5-year span, I wouldn't be shocked if they win 2 or 3. I think this year, though, that's a challenge. And with Atlanta, it's not just adjusting to a lot of new things. It's still a question mark around Moranchuk and like a lot of the spine. I expect Gregerson to be better. He was not an elite center back in Major League Soccer last year, and like no one else in the back line is as a defender. I love Amador in possession. I like what Brooks Lennon will probably bring, and then in goal as well. So I think for me, both these teams, I'm going to go under.
So I haven't given the Galaxy yet. This wasn't over for me easily until the Joseph Paintsel news. He's going to be out, expected to be around 6 to 8 weeks. And already without Ricky Puig, again, I think that they're still going to be really, really good, but you got to work with the info that you have. And
is the Paintsel thing is the Paintsel thing 6 to 8 weeks from the start of the season, or 6 to 8 weeks from when the injury was announced last week?
When I reported it, what was that, Monday? I was told 6 to 8 weeks from that. So that was, that puts you on 5 to 7 weeks.
he might miss the first 4 weeks of the season.
Yeah, but then you're also talking about missing preseason, right? And so having not been like ready to play a full 90.
Let me tell you this: Joseph Paintsel is always ready to play a full 90.
New album drops in a week, so get ready, locked in. He's ready to go. I will say this: Josh Guessman, we had on to do our preview Corner of the Galaxy. I agree with what he said, which is you don't need to replace Ricky. You're going to change your style. You're going to concede less goals. You're going to play a little bit different without him.
You can replace him in the aggregate.
We got Giambi.
Jason Giambi.
He is. He's that type of player. No, like it's 100% true. They're going to turn the ball over in bad spots much less often. They'll probably play a little bit deeper. I think that they'll put the ball on Royce's foot, but basically only in attacking positions, right? Like you want him to stay high. You want him to be connected to that front line. And then you trust the central midfielders, Sean Davis and Edwin Cerrillo was fantastic last year. And then the new kid, Sanabria from Uruguay. Did I go over on this one? I did.
I think you did.
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
So,
I'm still
You want to change
feeling
it? You can change it if you want.
No, I'm still
You talk
feeling
yourself out of it.
So
it.
Tom,
Yeah,
are you
I
over
did
as
a little
well?
bit, but...
No, I'm slight under just because, and again, so the Paintsel one is big to me. Marco Royce wasn't playing when I was in Coachella. And he's not a great bet to play 2,500 minutes.
Yeah.
And when you keep taking those pieces out, like it feels more likely to me that they're slightly under. Again, I still think that they're going to be very good, and I think what they care most about is peaking when Ricky Puig is back ahead of the playoffs.
And I think
Prop bet. Amiro Garces, Defender of the Year.
no, not taking it. Let me ask you,
I'll take the field.
in danger of getting us
Very
off
good.
track and never finishing this, how much Sean Davis stock do you have this year?
He's a good player, man.
I think he's solid. I do worry about the progressive passing. I think that he's a level below Mark Delgado and certainly Gaston Brugman at that. So it's going to be, until they get Sanabria up to speed, I think it's going to be a little bit ugly at times. But then once Ricky comes back, and hopefully that will happen this year, he's kind of ideal because he's just a bodyguard.
Yeah.
It's like the Rodrigo de Paul thing with Messi for Argentina. It's just like, if he's over there, I'm 15 yards away, and anybody who comes near him, they're going to feel it.
My favorite kind of player.
So just so I'm clear, we've got over. Tom, you went over on Atlanta United, and us two went under.
Yeah.
And then LA Galaxy, Doyle went over, and us two went under.
Correct.
Let's rock and roll.
53.5 points. Columbus Crew and Minnesota United. I'm going to start on the Crew. This is a big drop from last year. They were, a 66-point team from last year. It's tough to lose two players as good as Cucho and Christian Ramirez. And I'm sure that Isatal has, I'm sure he has a plan for replacing it, but we're a week away from the season. And Jason Russell Rowe is good, but he's not Cucho, and I don't think he's Christian Ramirez. And is it Dylan Shambost, or is he going to be deeper in midfield? Is it Aziel Jackson? Either way, it's such a jarring change from who this team was. It's hard not to see a pretty serious regression coming here, especially because, look, that back line's not getting any younger. You know, Steven Moreira's in his 30s now. Rudy Camacho was excellent last year. He's in his mid 30s. It feels like they were on the knife's edge and maybe slipped off of it a little bit. So a big regression. And I'm actually going to take the under for this team, 53.5 points. I think they'll be closer between 50, below that, just below that.
I'm with Doyle here. I thought that this was going to be an unpopular opinion, given how much praise the three of us have given the Columbus Crew. But apparently, I'm following the tide here. I echo everything you say. There's nothing more to add, really. But again, I think it is worth hammering home that, like, just because we go under doesn't mean that I think that they're going to finish in 12th. There's just too many question marks with this team. And again, if you agree a deal for a designated player 9 and a DP 10 right now, when do they debut? Probably not until March, maybe the end of February. So starting with that, there's too many question marks for me to go over, so I'm under.
Andrew Johnson in the chat says it'll be Chase Adams to replace.
Yeah, right.
As long as they play the U.S. Virgin Islands every week, he's on pace to set the Golden Boot record. It's not a bold claim, Tom, because I'm going to go under as well. So I think all three of us.
We're group think on the crew, up or down. It doesn't matter.
It's just one of those things where they got rid of Zelarayan, they brought in Rossi, they moved Aiden Morris. All those things happened, and the reality was Cucho is the second best player in the league. And so replacing that and filling in for that, I love Wilfred Nancy. I'm excited to see other players get opportunity. I'm excited to see him push a Jason Russell-Rowe into being better than we thought he could be. And, I've got my Taha Brunstock and all that other stuff going on this year. But, there's going to be a massive drop-off because you are missing the thing that made all of it work at a crazy high level. Yet, they will continue to be competitive because they're better at everything else than most teams, and they have more vision, and they stick to their guns more than other teams will week in and week out in the regular season. And I think Columbus selling Cucho is acknowledgement of you're fighting the salary cap monster as a winner. And
it's an acknowledgement that Cucho wants to play at the World Cup.
For sure, but it's not but it's also on the back end of a lot of these pieces moving, and you got to take some time to reset it and rebuild it for the future around whether it's Rossi or another piece or whatever it is. Aiden Morris leaving, Sean Zawadzki's not going to leave, right? You're starting to put in the next few pieces for the next 3-year run that you can build around.
Somebody, I was talking to a front office exec for another club. They were like, yeah, we wish we could have one more midfielder. And the way that he was talking was kind of like a depth rotation kind of piece. And he goes, I called, I like in Columbus was Zawadzki. I was like, did you think that was going to happen for anything less than several millions of dollars? I was like, yeah, everybody likes Zawadzki.
Let me follow up with saying I'm over on Minnesota United. I love this Minnesota United team.
Has Wes been texting you?
Yeah.
Wes Bryant texted me last night. He's like, Minnesota United are going to end up on 64 points this year.
Wait, the name of the article that he texted me is The Case for Minnesota United, which I think he wrote. I literally just got it. I haven't done it yet. I recorded something for Minnesota Aurora yesterday, so I've been on the phone with him. But I was already sold. Me and Tom talked about this a few weeks ago, and Tom was bringing up some team. I think he was talking about the Galaxy or someone, and he's like, who else? And I immediately brought up Minnesota United. They returned most of what I liked last year. They've improved at center back, I think, which is a huge one for them. You have pieces like Pereira that weren't here when it started last year. And you guys know from the group chat, I've been high on Kelvin Yeboah from day one. I called him my MLS MVP 2025 finalist, like I did with Evander 2 years ago. You are welcome, world, for existing. And I do it once again.
This line is in a really good spot. I'm leaning a slight over, but I do see a scenario in which third place to 10th is really, really tight in the West. Last year, the fourth place in the East was 52 points. In 2023, fourth place in the West was 51 points. I'm thinking something more like that, where one result is going to change a lot of the seeding between, again, third and 10th.
Yeah. it wouldn't surprise me. And this was the point that Wes made. He's like, yeah, that's what happened to Minnesota last year. They had like 8 straight weeks where they were missing all their players and they didn't win a game. And this year they don't have that happening. And they have their whole roster from the jump. They have their coach from the jump. Remember last year they didn't have their coach until April. So it does feel more of a piece. I had this line lower originally. That would have been a mistake,
which I was stoked about because it was an easy over.
Easy,
I wanted
easy
an
over.
easy one.
It was
in there.
an easy over. I think I'm a slight over on this one as well. I don't think they're gonna make Wes's dreams come true. I don't think this is a 65-point team, but 55 points feels entirely like that's 3 points better than they were last year. I think that's entirely gettable.
Wes is in the chat and he literally just wrote, "Tom is so pumped I don't have his phone number." Tom, were you under?
No, I'm over. I'm over.
So
I'm
all
over.
of us are over on that one. Cool.
And were all of us under on Columbus?
Yes.
How far under are you guys? Like, would it shock you if they ended up on 47 points?
Probably. Yeah.
No, it wouldn't because
To be clear, that's saying they're like a play-in team.
no. So 47. That's 7th place last year. Again, it varies, but I wouldn't be shocked to see them in 7th. I'd be very surprised to see them in the play-in game, but 7th is again. There's a lot of good teams in the East that we're going to get to here.
I think Wilfred Nancy, having been there for as long as he is and having things as cohesive and whatever, I mean, his Montreal team was a 65-point team. Like, he built that. It was a 2-year build. I just don't think it drops off that far. And so I would be shocked if they were down in a 7th, 8th place conversation.
Jason Russell-Rowe over 11.5 goals.
Oh, that's a tough line. MLS comps only? MLS only?
Yes. MLS comps only. Yeah. Or regular season only. Yeah.
I'm going to believe in Wilf. I'm going to believe in Wilf and go over.
I was trying to work it in my mind. When are they going to get a DP9? Because if he starts 28 games, it's an obvious yes.
Tom's already drafted the unknown DP9 Golden Retriever.
So I'm going to go under because I think that they're going to sign a DP9.
Fair enough. 52.5 points. The New York Red Bulls and Charlotte FC.
Over on both of these. This is what I was just saying with that. There's, I think, a lot of good teams in the Eastern Conference. I love both of these teams where they sit right now. Let's start with Charlotte. They bring back all of their defense. They, again, what they missed was one true star attacker. One dude who's just going to brute force your way to points in terms of give him the ball, clear out, and go. Patrick Agimon showed good moments. Patrick Agimon showed good moments, but it wasn't like, oh man, Pat, bail us out because we're stuck 0-0 right now. Wilfred Zaha is that dude. And then Wilfred Zaha is going to open up more space for Patrick Agimon. And Wilfred Zaha is going to open up more space for Liel Abada. Liel Abada is going to get his first full preseason. Goss theorem here. Another Goss theorem candidate is Pep Biel. Last year, they did not have enough options or enough quality in attack. This year they do, and they're bringing back the same structure below that. I'm all the way in on Charlotte FC, and I feel pretty similar about the Red Bulls.
Can I ask a question about my own theorem? What's the policy on like a Tim Ream? Is he Goss theorem eligible? How long does it take?
I don't think so.
To age back in?
Decade away? Goss theorem for a 35-year-old or 36-year-old, however old he is, that feels weird. You know,
a decade away is not enough for you to allow to be readjust. Okay, I'm thinking about it. I would like to acknowledge out the gate as the chat starts talking about this that I understand I will end up having not enough points in MLS to make up for the amount of teams I pick. Like, however this finishes, I'm going to have too many teams over and not enough teams under, whatever. I'm going to go over on both of these, though. You said it about Cincinnati, and that's fine. Do we think Red Bulls are going to be the best defensive team in the league?
No, but they'll be in the discussion.
Yeah. It just feels like the first time they've brought in a ready-to-start adult center back. Sean Nealis has solidified himself as one of the best at what he does. There's going to be a ton of destroyers. If Coronel plays at close to the level he played in the playoffs, this is going to be one of the best defensive teams, and that doesn't include Timo Werner stuff and whatever else is going on that side of things. So I think I'm going to go over on them and all the things Tom said about Charlotte.
Somebody...
I was going to say, real quick on the Red Bulls, that Choupo-Moting has been freaking awesome this preseason. I'm hearing a lot of similar things about Choupo-Moting that I was hearing from people about Emil Forsberg this time last year.
that he was going to miss half the season and the team was going to go into the toilet without him.
That they made MLS Cup final because he was really good.
Somebody among the consensus teams always disappoints, right? And like we've gone through the five consensus teams in the Eastern Conference. I think you guys took the over on all 5 teams.
Yeah, I think so.
Other than Columbus
and Miami.
Right.
Oh, that's right. You took the under on Miami, but like I don't know. Like on paper, I like the way it looks.
No, we took the
these
under on
teams.
Columbus.
Yeah, so I said that
yeah.
after I corrected myself.
Sorry, I thought I said that because I didn't know which one of us was which.
I like the way it looks on paper for both these teams. My concern about Charlotte is that Ashley Westwood has played about 15,000 minutes over the past 4 years, and he's 35 years old. And I don't trust them to figure out a way to create goals if he's not out there for another 3,000 minutes this year. Because what we saw last year, when they got Pep Biel, who's a number 10, Dean Smith was like, nope, you're an inverted playmaking winger, and we want to have Ashley Westwood and 2 piano carriers in central midfield. So to your point, Tom, they do have more attacking talent than I think they have had, but I don't see the will to use it and to like sort of dial back the defensive stance of the team a little bit. And that really sort of pigeonholes them into a counterattack or nothing kind of blueprint.
I think that's the first part of the defensive ethos is a good thing. Like what they need is a couple special players in attack.
Is Sir Minty standing just off screen, pointing a gun at you?
That's what I should have.
Blink twice if you need help.
Let's see how long I can.
You
hold
clearly need help. You clearly need help.
Yeah. You got to be more specific when you ask me that question. Just you can't blanket it because
Tom would never rat. Look at this man. He would never rat on anyone, even if that was the case.
As for the Red Bulls, they went into the toilet without Emil Forsberg in the middle of last year, but he was coming off a long season. He never got fully fit. He was integrating. I actually kind of expect him to be healthier this year, and like that doesn't mean 90 minutes every week, but like if he plays 27, 28 games, whether Choupo-Moting is Corey Burke or better than Corey Burke, if Forsberg is out there for 2,300 minutes, I feel like this is an easy over for the Red Bulls.
If they have 2 out of Forsberg, Choupo-Moting, and Lewis Morgan starting 28 games, I think it's an over.
Yeah, I think I'm there too. Should I have made this higher? What if I had put this at 55.5?
You probably would have scared me away.
Yeah, because I have like Charlotte ahead of them. Again, I think it's going to be tight with these two. Like, again, it's MLS. Anything in this window is going to be super
Do you
tight
have
on
both
points.
these teams ahead of Columbus?
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
I have Charlotte,
Bolton,
Red Bulls,
Brother.
and Atlanta ahead of Columbus.
Doyle, were you under on Charlotte?
I was trying to talk myself into it, but no. This will be 53, 57 points, somewhere around there. I think I'm over on both these teams. Next up is Orlando City, 51.5 points. I'll just say that I'm under on them. And it's not because I think they're bad. I just think that the rest of the East is so good. I think I love Eduard Atuesta, man, and I think he'll make the team better overall. But they're going to miss Cartagena's ball-winning ability and field coverage. The new Croatian winger, it wouldn't surprise me if he was a better overall player than Facu Torres, but also a less productive player than Facu Torres. And what they really need from that spot is productivity, especially if they're getting the ball more because of Atuesta versus Cartagena. And then the thing that really bothers me is like Schlegel is still starting center back. So, yeah, under. And it wouldn't surprise me if this was a team that was kind of fighting for their play. Like, I still think they'll get in, but we're talking like the 8-9 game type of thing.
You don't think this is Bracalo breakout season?
I hope so for Orlando's sake. Like, no disrespect to Schlegel, he's a fine third center back in this league, but if he's one of your two starters, you're not going to win MLS Cup, and you're not going to be around 60 points.
Yeah, I'm going to go under here as well. I don't love the swap and not purposefully, obviously, from Cartagena to Atuesta for this team, to do it on top of losing your star DP, and then you talk about some of the issues in the spine. Last year, I thought the drop-off would be even bigger from 2 years ago because of some of the underlying numbers. They ended up rescuing themselves towards the end of the year. I think it can be a competitive team in the playoffs. I would be surprised if they're at where I think some of these other teams have taken jumps, like a Red Bulls and a Charlotte.
Yeah, again, I think that this is a really well set line. Good job, Doyle. It's a slight under for me, but it's one of those where, again, I don't. You're gonna immediately try to make a joke that I'm saying that exactly an exact point total. But this is one. If you said it at 49.5, I'd probably go over because I think that there's more scenario. It's one of those that's really tight. It hinges on a few points here.
Yeah. What are you hearing about the Croatian winger that they spent the DP slot on?
So I've heard, and look, obviously Orlando are excited about it. They're the team who signed him. They're the team who scattered him. They see it. When I hear from other teams unprompted, when they're like, yeah, man, that's a good player, I usually take real note of that. And I got a couple texts about Pasalic from another team in a positive way.
But when I tell you unprompted that Connecticut pizza is superior, you're like, no, I don't take any note of that at all.
There are things that I won't change my mind on.
Marco
Pasalic is not one of them.
Which Orlando center forward do you think scores the most goals this year?
Ramiro Enrique.
Zero question that he's the starter all year.
Yeah,
I'm saying Luis Muriel.
I just think he's so much better defensively than Duncan Maguire is, that I think he's going to play from the jump for Oscar Pareja. And look, if you're playing 70 minutes every game and your competition's playing 20 minutes, I'm going to bet on the guy who plays it. And his underlings are really good too. So this is not a guy who's out. It's not Maxi Urruti. He's not out there for defensive purposes and 35-yard shots. He actually gets in the box. So I love this kid. And if I was Orlando, I would consider selling Duncan Maguire so that I could go out and get, within the league, and go out and get another center back or, another U22 central midfielder or something, because they are thin. And that's the other thing about this team. They just don't have any depth at crucial spots.
Get RSL on the phone. Duncan Maguire to Salt Lake City as their starting center forward.
I like that. Trade him straight up for Elias Manuel. You think Elias will report?
Yeah, I think he would go to Orlando. He's Brazilian. He has to go to Orlando. It's Oasis.
That'd be nice.
Are we all under on that one?
I guess we are.
Yeah, all three of us were under.
All right, NYCFC 49.5 points.
I'm gonna say the under, while also saying I got to interview Pascal Jansen in Coachella for 5 minutes, and I was ready to. I was looking for brick walls while I was talking to him, and there wasn't them because we were in the middle of a soccer field. But I'll tell you, man,
you're not a very smart guy, are you?
No,
sorry.
No, I'm not. But I really like him. I just there's too many questions, and with the Santi Rodriguez to Botafogo reports, if that comes to pass, so Santi didn't play in their last couple preseason games. The team told me he had a knock. Transfer window. Sometimes knocks happen, air quote, around a potential move. So again, I'm not saying that that's definitely happening or definitely not happening. But if he goes, then you just don't have again, Alonso Martinez I do like a lot, but the other players are all Maxi Morales is the only one that is proven at this level. And again, he's 37 or 38. I think.
I'm saying I'm gonna go under with this team. If the question here being, are they as good as they were last year? And for a team that felt like it had to come together during the year, it feels like there's less coming back. I think their preseason last game, Hannes Wolf was the only starter who had played on the team before. So, I get that a lot of those pieces are going to, Thiago Martins, all those players, they're going to be fine. They're going to be there. Matt Freese, all of that. But there's unknown, and then the answers are normally young pieces that have no experience. And over the last few years, NYCFC has not hit on those young pieces, and they haven't hit on them quickly. So as much as the belief is that the new manager sort of gets them going in that direction, to do that quickly is really, really tough. So my assumption would be that NYCFC is not better than they were last year. And then I'm looking back because I'm reminding myself last year, they finished 3 wins in their last 4 against Red Bull, Cincinnati, and Nashville. That were like weird moments in the season that if they don't win, they're completely off this number.
Yeah, but they did win.
You think they're going to be Red Bulls 5-1 this year?
Probably not, but they did win.
They did win.
And they brought in.
Game's not playing a spreadsheet, mate.
They brought in Pascal Janssen to make sure that they get more out of Augustino Heda and Julian Fernandez in particular. Those 2 guys who I think, like both of them, I could not figure out why they were not playing more the second half of the season because they looked awesome anytime they were on the field. I'm going over on this one. I am a little bit worried that Justin Hack is apparently the replacement for James Sands. I think that's a downgrade in a crucial spot. But look, man, I didn't think much of Nick Cushing as a coach. I think that we're likely to see an upgrade on vibes and player development. And that's a little unfair because Nick Cushing actually did a good job of developing some of the homegrown players. But like those high-end guys I expect to hit. So, yeah, I'm going slightly over on this one.
All right.
I already went under, so.
Yeah, I got it listed.
Colorado Rapids, 47.5 points.
Over. I'm going over. Again, Doyle, you've said this before. This play style, when it's cohesive and when the players fit, there's usually a pretty high floor. Whether or not the ceiling is high is debatable, going by team by team. 47.5 points for the Colorado Rapids. I think that they're going to be around that. Last year they had 50. I don't think that they're worse than last year. I know that this isn't in a vacuum. That's not the only factor. There are games where they overperformed or underperformed. I just think that they're going to go over 47.5 because I trust that Georgi Mihailovic and Hafa Navahu, that was real. And if the defense is better, and it can't realistically be any worse, then they're going to be better than last year.
I don't think they're better than last year. I think there's no replacing Moise Pampito. I think that his departure changed everything about how they were able to function. And if you look, I think they only won 3 of their last 15 games across all competitions. Right? You know, from mid July onwards, like the last 3 games before Leagues Cup, from that point onwards, they were way underwater, both in terms of goals, scored and allowed, but also expected goals. And if you look at it, like they just couldn't stop anybody in transition. And without Pampito, they didn't have someone to cover and like make those world-class athlete plays in behind. And I want to believe in this team because I just like their approach to team building. And I hope that they have found the next Moise Pampito in the draft, one of these guys. But I think it's unlikely, so I'm an under.
I think well, the tough part is you set the line under what they were last year. So already, if you think you're taking a step back, it's a tough line there. I don't love the way they've tried to replace. I like Owuziam as a player. Actually love him as a player. I don't love his fit with this group. I like Kuti Pietro a ton, so maybe this team takes a step forward offensively and a step back defensively, and I don't know where to land in the middle of that with this group. So I'm going to take them as an under right now, but I don't love this line. I think it would have been easier if you set it towards what they finished last year.
Well done, Doyle.
So, yeah. All right, so I'm causing David pain. That's what I was looking for.
I knew that you were taking a second. How do I respond to this compliment? And instead of saying thank you, David, it was I'm causing you pain. That makes me happy.
Well, that's the job. That's
love
the
language
job.
among men.
Because if you came out and said 55.5, right, 50 last year, 49.5, I think it's a pretty easy, safe to say, like, all right, they take a half step back no matter what. This is already the half step back, and the question is, do they hit there or not? I do think there's a level of commitment to this, both the style and the group right now. You have these guys who are like, this club gave me a chance. I want to be a part of this. Talking to Georgie preseason, that's what it sounds like. And
Up the fucking PIDs.
Exactly. And a lot of, let's just be real, a lot of MLS teams don't try every week. Not like don't
Right.
try,
No,
but
for
like
sure.
it just doesn't feel correct a lot of weeks. And I don't know that Colorado's in one of those conversations. And so that's where it's hard with this line to say, like, they're not going to take games off. Plus, you've got altitude and all of that going, you know what? I'm flipping. I'm over it. Suck it, Doyle. You've officially been invited.
So this area is where it's hardest, right? You can look at really good teams and say they're either going to be great or just very good and above and beyond. We have, because this is MLS, 14 teams, their over-unders are between 41 and 50. And that's the nature of it every year. So it is really tough in this. This is the margin where, like, we could even generally be right about a team and still kind of miss in the over-under because this is the middle of the pack. And again, one random point, one random win, one random loss.
An injury, somebody
Yeah.
somebody gets on a heater, goalkeeper, has 2 bad weeks in a row. Like anything like that can just change the complete complexion.
Sorry.
Like we see it every single year.
After that speech from Tom, I just have to throw a hoodie on because Tom's just throwing bars right now. One single moment, one single mistake, one single issue, one single slip, and the whole season changes.
Austin FC and the Houston Dynamo, 46.5 points. We've moved into Texas. Austin FC have spent $30 million on their front line over the
I'm going
past
over
2.
Austin, under Houston.
Talk us through it.
I'm going to believe in the Austin attack change. I'm going to believe in, I think, already upgrade through the spine. I don't know how many games Ilie starts this year. I don't know if the style ends up being cohesive.
But he'll make the right choice.
To what he is. Oh my God, dude. This sweatshirt that Happy Foot Sadfoot has, it literally is a sweatshirt with the goal, and it says Ilie made the right choice. It is an unreal. I need to buy that sweatshirt. I've talked about it twice now. I got to go purchase it. I like Austin's defensive spine, and I'm going to believe in the attacking pieces taking over. We talked about it in our Austin preview, which is going to drop. I've got Brandon Vasquez like over 10 assists. I think we see the best of Brandon Vasquez as a dominant center forward force, where in Cincinnati, he was a finisher half the time and he was a creator half the time based on who was there. And now it's like his team, his identity, and then belief in Bukhari and Ozuni to just play their roles at a minimum, if not then elevate their game over that. So I'm going over on Austin.
You flipped me. This was one of the ones that I didn't feel the most strongly about. I looked at it and wanted to go over. And then I was like, all right, well, if I go over 30 times, what's the point of doing any of this? I had them under initially, not because I don't like them, but like there are 4 teams below them that I'm going to go over with in the West. And I was like, all right, just math. I have to take somebody to go under. But guys, you talked me back. As I leaned over to go to my computer there, I flipped Austin ahead of Houston in my predictions that are still fluid, of course. But I'll go over for Austin FC. I think that Brandon Vasquez, the ceiling here, the floor here rather, is really high. Ceiling is probably too. But
are you over?
I'm worried about
Houston?
defensive transition. I'm going to be under on Houston.
Oh, okay.
That's kind of where the flip was. You talked me into it. So, again, if Houston had a DP 10 right now, I'd probably feel different. But I think that there's too many questions there. And sure, this question was Austin. How will this all fit? And again, defensive transition. This could look really dumb. What if this is 2023 2.0 with just different players and more money? I don't think it will be, but I can't rule out that possibility. Still, you won me over, Goss, over Austin, under Houston.
I'm on the fence on both of these. I feel like we've seen a lot of resilience from this Houston team over the past couple of years.
Yeah.
Right. Like even playing without Coco, even playing without, Ache. This is a team that's figured out a way to get points and to get on the ball and use that to collect points. And like when we were talking about the Rapids, teams that play hard every week and collect points during the dog days of summer because they're just out there giving 5% more than the team they're lining up against. I don't think they're going to lose that. If anything, I think they're going to have a little bit more of that.
You think
this
Jack
year.
McGlynn comes on the field barefoot, Griffin Dorsey style, week 2 of the season?
I just hope that Kalen Carr is calling that game for us. I'm just absolutely dying for that to happen. So I just look. It's tough because Ponce wasn't convincing, and Anali is still going to be hurt. And to your point, Tom, they don't have a DP number 10. And And I'm worried a little bit about goal, where I thought that Steve Clark was really good last year. So there's all these concerns, but like I got to make one gut and vibes pick in this, and Houston's going to be that for me. I just think the vibes are going to be good. My gut says trust Houston, even though, like, if anything, this line feels maybe a little bit too high. As for Austin, I'm a big Denny Pereira fan. I think that he's going to do a lot of great things as a free eight, connecting that midfield to that attack. I'm not sure those pieces are going to fit together beyond that well. So I'm going under, like slightly under for Austin. Like I expect them to be a playoff team, maybe play-in team. But it's, I'm less convinced by the spine than you guys, I think, are, specifically that central defense.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Do we think we can get like a TikTok ISO cam on Jack McGlynn on Houston? It'll be me and Connor McGlynn, the only two watching it, and like it'll still be a great time.
No, you were just on
Watch
Scuffed.
Times Square.
You know for a fact that half the guys on Scuffed will be watching that Jack McGlynn ISO cam. Shout out Sanjay. All right, I guess we're moving along then to 45.5. I got 3 teams on 45.5. Vancouver Whitecaps, St. Louis City, Portland Timbers. Whoever wants it, take it.
Vancouver under, St. Louis over, Portland over. I'm worried about Vancouver with, again, there's off-field stuff with the ownership group being sold. That's never easy for front office and the staff. They have unknown coach coming in. What they were really solid under Vanni Sartini, and again, the move to change coaching was to raise your ceiling. That's the play. Doesn't mean that, like, it still could happen, but I think that you took away more predictability in this team. And I just talked about it with the Western Conference. There are just teams that I like more around them in this bucket. For instance, St. Louis City and Portland. St. Louis, I think that they're going to be really, really strong this season. I really like the additions they made. A full season of Hartle and Toychert is going to be awesome for me. And, like, again, I like Roman Berkey in goal. It could be the difference between, finishing in 10th or finishing in 8th, right, in a positive way. And then Portland Timbers, I'm still there. I think that they're going to they will look much different than last year stylistically, because David DaCosta in for Evander, like, those two players are very different. They're both DP10s, but DaCosta can play wide. DaCosta will do more against the ball. He won't have the same goal-scoring numbers as Evander, and probably not the same creativity. At least it'd be unrealistic to expect that immediately. But the idea with this team is to improve the defense, and he should help with that. He won't fix it all himself, because that'd be stupid to say about a DP10. But I think that there's more regression to the mean on that side of the ball, because you look individually, I like a lot of those pieces. I do. So I'm going to go over Portland, over St. Louis, under Vancouver.
I'm going to go under Portland, under Vancouver, over St. Louis. So I think the St. Louis line that we set for the show was 1.5 points per game, which would net them out like around 50.
50, yeah.
Which I kind of felt okay about. It's the pace they played on the last 10 games of last year, post the summer moves. I still feel pretty good about most of the St. Louis stuff, even with the huge caveat being I have no idea what Olaf Melberg is as a manager. And I don't know.
That's the worry, right?
Yeah. I don't know if he's gonna keep things the way they are, but my bigger fear is I don't know how he reacts to problems, and I don't know how he reacts to the summer and all of that. And so that part really scares me, but yet I like just the floor for St. Louis overall. Yeah. Vancouver, I was high on coming into my preview, and we did it with Michael McCall, and like just what Tom talked about, the fact that it's the last year of the lease on the stadium. The ownership group has talked about selling. They fired the coach. Does not scream vibes with that club. So I find that really tough.
They were also super lucky with injuries last year.
Yeah.
Like, they did not lose many man games to injury. And look, the bill eventually comes due with that sort of thing. And I hope it doesn't, because I really like the Gald and White partnership. I really enjoyed Jaden Nelson.
Yeah.
For a brief moment with Toronto FC, where he was kind of like a pressing 10 in the old Latif Blessing role. And I want to see him do that.
Same.
And like, because he's got so much talent. Like, I want it to come together, but you can see the drop off kind of happening. And that's why I set the line where I did. Like, this is a regression from last year, right? This is, 3-4 points under where they finished last year. And it feels like it could end up being more than that. I'm still, man, this is a tough line. I need to come back to it. Portland, I'm under.
Real quick, let me throw out, because I was just looking up to remind myself. Kubas only started 23 games because of Copa America. So they were fortunate with injuries. But if he's around, I think you'd give up some players to injury, basically, to have him around more often, just because of how important he is. On saying that, I do wonder if a guy like that is looking for the exit door. Not because of anything I've heard, just because of all the things we've talked about.
Yeah. And also, like, if you're an MLS team that needs a midfield ball winner and transition stopper.
And you could pay cash now?
Yeah. Like, he would be way high up my list if I was NYCFC. You know, like, that would make a lot of sense for what they in Colorado. Colorado doesn't have the DP slot open, unfortunately, but this is a guy that answers some questions. I hope Vancouver keep him. I hope that we're wrong, because I've really enjoyed watching this team, and I am going to pick over, just like slightly over. Portland, I'm going to pick slightly under. I know that they were worse defensively in terms of their actual numbers than they were in their underlying numbers last year. I'm not sure how that gets better, because I don't think any of the pieces they've added are necessarily 100% starters, for one. And for two, they were by far the most productive team in the league in terms of what their DPs gave them last season. I think it was like 68 combined goals and assists. And one of those guys is gone. The best of them is gone. And the other two are in their 30s. It just feels like there's a very clear bear case to be made for Portland. So I'm going under on them. And who is the third one? St. Louis City. This is tough, right? Because they did look so good the second half of last season, and Teutsch and Hartl in particular, but Simon Betcher was really good. We don't know if he's going to start. They're changing from a 4-2-3-1 that really worked to a 3-4-2-1. And it always worries me, especially for a team that hasn't had a good hit rate on center backs. And look, Berkey was heroic 2 years ago, and he was really good last year. And if that trend line continues, it's that is going to cost you 4 or 5 points. And when we're talking about this big scrum in the middle, 4 or 5 points is the difference between 5th place, 6th place, and 10th. I don't know. I would honestly be higher on St. Louis if they had kept John Hackworth. If they had just said, you know what we did down the stretch here really, really worked, and we're going to stick with that.
We had this conversation, the previews coming out this weekend with Justin and Jake of Ball Watching. And I said to them, are you surprised Hack didn't get the job? And they were like, not in comparison to who got it, and a big name coming from Europe, maybe some connection to Lutz. They were like, if it had been a USL head coach or a retread MLS head coach, I think there would have been frustration that it just wasn't Hack again. Yeah. But I'm still surprised it didn't. Felt like Hack had the chance, earned it, and then it didn't get it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe tailed off at the end there a little bit. Same thing happened to Peter Luxon for FC Dallas.
You're not playing for anything. You're not playing for anything.
Yeah.
At that point.
Slightly over on Vancouver, slightly under on St. Louis and Portland.
Tom, you were over on Portland?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I am.
Just making sure.
All right. 44.5 points. FC Dallas and Real Salt Lake.
I'm going
go.
over on Dallas. I honestly wish that we recorded this before the Lucho trade came to be, so that and they signed the center back for $3.5 million, just so I could be like, well, the team, it's an under right now. I don't know what's gonna happen, and then just take that as a cop out, because not all these teams that I'm picking over are gonna go over. I know that logically, and I can't stop myself from picking over. Bro, I don't care about the defensive issues right now. My brain is just focused on Lucho Costa and Peter Musa, and I have to go over.
You have to take the under on San Jose, San Diego, and Sporting Kansas City. If you don't take the under on those three teams, then this is just a completely useless
Don't tell me what to do.
Tyler, by the way, we haven't done the revs yet, which I don't know if that's a good thing. I will say I appreciate the very PR copy that Tom has written, which is historic MLS season. All teams in MLS have the best season in MLS history. 30 clubs, like an upward rocket, blast through the standings, and all finish on a point
Fire win the World Cup.
That's what it feels like right now from Tom.
30 white tie.
I'm gonna go RSL.
Relax.
I'm gonna go RSL under, FC Dallas over. We had this convo at the end of the last show, but like Lucho in, what are you really that worried about? You need a better performance from Kamungo this year, which I have belief in, and like
remember it was Eric Quill who got Kamungo to be like the best player in Next Pro, right?
and like playing in a position he played before, and like giving him some trust and things like that, which seemed
and also
confident.
just like asking him to run at the goal and kick the ball into the goal and nothing else, because Lucho's going to take care of all the rest of it. You just go there and kick the ball into the back of the net.
Center back, center mid's the big worry. I don't know how much they're done, and obviously I don't know a ton about the pieces they've brought in, which are all a bit of unknowns.
Patrickson Delgado fan.
Yeah.
Big
too.
Patrickson
Me
Delgado fan. I thought he was awesome last year.
So I'm going over on Dallas. Doyle, I assume you're there too because of Patrickson Delgado.
That's correct. That's correct.
So as I said, I'm over there, and that I don't feel good about an under on Real Salt Lake, but somebody has to be under.
They've made the playoffs 4 straight years, right? And last year, 59 points. I think that was a club record.
I shouldn't have let you talk me into Austin.
But they.
So Tom's mad at Dallas for making signings and for me to making my own point. Completely unrelated.
None of this is my fault.
They were a different team after selling Andres Gomez middle of last year, and now Chicha's gone as well. And the guy that they thought was going to be his replacement, at least a little bit, Elias Manuel, like he's maybe not entirely committed to the project, is what we're hearing.
It's also not a replacement. Like the reality is they didn't replace him.
Yeah, and they're also changing their formation. I think they're playing a 3-4-2-1 with Gonçalves and Luna as a 2 underneath somebody. Axel Kai. I don't know who's the forward.
No, it's
Forrester.
A giant. He's scored some goals in preseason. That is the guy that's starting right now.
The Australian guy?
No, the Duke grad.
Oh, all right, yeah.
He's the new Brian White.
Okay. Or Jeremy Abobasi, right?
Yeah.
It's just
I don't know. I still don't understand how Jeremy Abobasi's not on this roster. I still don't understand how he ended up on LAFC.
I hope he kills it.
Yeah, me too.
I've always liked that guy. But he would have been perfect fit. But it's just so much change from a team that was so good. You could told me look, I have a lot of faith in Pablo. He gets his guys to play hard. He usually gets them organized. And I think that when you have a central midfield pair of Ojeda and Anelli, you're never going to be soft, right? You're going to create a lot of transition opportunities. But if you told me this team ended up on 39 points, I would be like, yeah, I could see it. They just enough questions along the back line, enough questions along the front line, enough questions in goal where it's like this could spin out in a way that we haven't seen happen to RSL in a while.
I will say I'm still high on Marchuk and I'm still high on Luna, even with me thinking they're going to go under. Like, I think there's going to be a lot of pieces. I just think the 18 goals are not going to be there. Like, there's going to be this huge gap of the big finisher for all the things they do well. So Doyle is under.
Yeah. How would you feel about this team if they went out and they paid $6 million for Duncan McGuire?
They're over.
Yeah, I think so too.
You think he would make that much of a difference?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do too. Should we try to talk this one? I'm wearing RSL colors. Should we try to talk this one into existence?
I want to talk about their kid. It's delightful. Their secondary kid.
Oh my god, it's so good.
It's so good.
Like
it's so good.
It's instantly like a top 10 MLS kit of all time. I think it's the first time we've ever seen a checkerboard kit in MLS.
The thing that comes to mind is Boa Vista, which doesn't do good stuff on the field, but off the field, those are great kits.
These guys are going to get paid on time, at least. So, are we,
so wait,
are-
hang on. Tom, where'd you fall on RSL?
Don't make me keep saying under. I don't like it, but I'm under.
And Doyle on Dallas, you were over?
I was over with you jokers,
Okay.
and I was under with you jokers. There's way too much consensus.
Did we both just go?
I do appreciate in the chat, every 7 minutes, someone will say Tom knows ball, and then 2 minutes later, someone will be like, Tom's an idiot. And it's just kind of this back and forth experience that's happening.
That's the voices in my own head.
I was going to say, so now we all know what it's like to be inside Tom's head.
Tom,
But a lot more
operating
negative.
burners during
a lot
the show.
more negative. Now, I saw somebody. I said again. I love doing this exercise, and yeah, we're gonna be probably wrong in a good amount of these, particularly because of how much the clump is. Like somebody was like, I got mad, and then I walked away,
Yeah.
and then I came back because I remembered you guys are just gonna be wrong about a lot of things. I was like, all right, glad that you got that.
Laminate it. That's what I say.
Yeah.
If you're really committed to it, you better
great
laminate
point.
it.
It's a great point.
Let's
Are
go
we
next.
moving on? All
Yeah.
right. Let's 43.5. Chicago Fire. I initially had this at 45.5. I had to move it down based purely on the fact that they are the Chicago Fire. But I am an easy over on
Yeah, me
this
too.
one.
I'm over. I have them above NYCFC in the standings.
Wow.
I felt like I had to say give you something else so that we didn't just all agree on the same thing again. So move the conversation forward here.
All right, so
I'm
let's say if this was 45.5.
Yeah, I
would
would
we
have
all
went over. I would have went over.
So you're predicting the Fire end their 7-year, 8-year playoff-less drought this season?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
if it's over 40,
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
I
Let's
think
talk through it.
if you take last year's bottom or the 8 teams, bottom 7 teams, like from Montreal down, I think Atlanta's an obvious one to make a jump, and then Chicago's the other one. I think those are going to be the two biggest point caps this season in the Eastern Conference. You bring in Jack Elliott alone.
Yeah.
You bring in a genuine DP attacker who will play minutes because he's not mainly focused on Euros or whatever else is going on.
Dude, Jordan Shaqiri is ripping it up in Switzerland right now.
Great. I'm glad he's home. Good for him.
Amazing.
I'm sure
he has
sure
20 goal contributions in 19 games.
Tom goes to the
Or-
Liverpool bar every week to stream his games just in case. Once a red, you never walk alone.
Tom's like, this guy played for my favorite team, and we're built the exact same shape. It's perfect.
He's the only one with Cavs better than me. I think that we need to put him to the top of our Swiss League Golden Boot draft when we get around to it.
I like that, along with
Ignacio
Skels and
Alaceda.
Gashi. So yeah, Jack Elliott to me is the biggest acquisition, but it's within the context of Berhalter coming in as coach, and people have their issues with Berhalter, and certainly by the end of his time with the U.S., it had gone stale. But the one thing that man does for club or country is he gets the defense right. He fixes the defense, and they do not give up cheap goals. I think Chris Brady is going to end up looking a lot better because of that. I think he'll probably play himself into a big move overseas. And I think that, having Kellen Acosta in that number 6 role, which I think he played really well for the U.S. under Berhalter, it just all the pieces kind of slot into the right spots. And they've added 5-6 new starters in this offseason, and that is a lot, but they're going to be well drilled, and they're not going to give up cheap goals. And at the start of the season, that gets you points.
Diego Luna had 12 assists last year. Brian Gutierrez over under 11.5. Also,
I was gonna say you need to give a number.
Yeah.
You say
I thought you were asking me to come up with the over under on the fly.
No.
I'm like, damn, you have a lot of respect for me. Thanks, Dave.
I'm going under on that one too.
Yeah, I'm going under
Because you don't think he plays the whole year? You don't think he...
I don't know.
Gutierrez 13.5 goal contributions over under.
I think I'd go over on that because I think that he'll be more like the 5 goals, 8 assists, or 6 goals, 7, whatever it is. I think that the combo of goal contributions.
Neither of those was over 13.5.
Okay, then 6 goals and 8 assists rather than 11 assists. I think that he'll be he'll create chances, but I don't think that that'll be his primary responsibility. This team will have other play, like Jonathan Bamba and Zinchenko will have plenty of assists. We know how a great Berhalter team works.
Dave.
I'm going to go over. I
You think he's going to end up with like 5 goals and 12 assists type of season?
yeah, if he doesn't get sold.
Yeah. And
Like,
that
that's
could
the-
happen.
It's a possibility.
Which could happen, and then I'd be fine because then I get the money, because I think that's the way that works. Is if you choose someone on the over-under, you get the cash. for the
Right. It
transfer.
just goes straight to the Soccerwise
Yeah.
slush fund.
Exactly. It feels like I think Kuiper's going to score like 20 goals this year. I think it's going to be more cohesive. If Gutierrez starts at the 10, like think about the players that have played at that position for Greg Berhalter and MLS.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
What he allows them to do, the space he creates for them. And I think Bamba will probably be more of a finisher in a lot of those moments in front of him, at least to start until, he starts to get comfortable with the level and all of that. And so you've got a lot of pieces around Gutierrez that are going to be finishers.
And to your point about Kuipers and 20 goals, like that probably caused some double takes in the chat. But like, look at Berhalter's history with center forwards in MLS, including like really limited center forwards. Jossie Zardes had his best season under Greg Berhalter. Ola Kamara had his best season under Greg Berhalter. Kai Kamara had his best season under Greg Berhalter. And it was all the same pattern of play. And Kuipers is going to get chance after chance after chance off that pattern of play. I'm over on the Fire at 40. This is another one I set too low. This should have been 46.5.
Yeah, it probably should have been. I probably still may have gone with it.
Would you have gone over on 46.5, Don?
I don't know, man. I'm like there's a lot of Kool-Aid flowing around this apartment right now.
I'm there. I think that they have a real chance to even get beyond the play-in game. And last year, the Red Bulls were on 47 points in 7th place.
Yeah. 50 points would not leave me utterly shocked from this team because I don't think they're going to give up cheap goals.
Let me ask one more over-under with Chicago because clearly we're here for a while.
Hell yeah.
2.5 DPs by the end of this year. Over. You think in the summer or you think before?
I think in the summer, more likely. I think what they'll want to do is spend half a season figuring out who the core is and what Bamba looks like and like how he's going to best operate. And they're not going to entirely judge their shopping by that, but it's going to inform who they shop for and how they want to integrate that, whether it's kind of a free 8 and go with the 4-3-3 or whether it's a true number 10 like what they had in Columbus with Pipa.
Yeah,
I agree with you guys. I think that it'll end up with a third DP, but it will be in the summer. Again, things can change. Who knows what happens? Maybe. I'm
heartbroken that Weston McKennie has once again proved himself irreplaceable for Juventus because like I had all the fan fiction of Wes coming to Chicago and being for them what Michael Bradley was for Toronto a dozen years ago. Like that would have been wonderful, but he's just so good for Juve right now. I don't think he's coming back. All right, moving along. Montreal. CF Montreal, 42.5 points. This was a tough one for me to set because I looked at this roster and I thought that they were better than last year. And I'm really high on George Campbell and I'm really high on Nathan Saliba. And I actually thought Giacomo Vrioni was pretty good last year. And I'm looking forward to seeing him in what I hope will be a more functional setup, even though it's Montreal, so it may never actually that functional. But this one, like this is like a dark horse season pass team.
Yeah,
like
100%.
this is like, oh, they're playing. I'm gonna turn that game on.
I think Tom. By the way, next week we're doing our watchability rankings. So for everyone who is somehow still here listening or watching, you've got that to look forward to. And we've got Golden Boot Draft comments in the chat. We're gonna do our Golden Boot Draft, Doyle, with everyone next week as well. Before the season starts.
Oh, so I'm officially invited back then? This was not a failed audition on my part. I get to be on Soccerwise.
If you keep peddling conspiracy theory.
Yeah, we're still working on it. I like any USMNT related fan fiction, so that got me back on board. But I will probably need an Emerson Heineman just full 3-part trilogy at some point as well.
Buddy, to bring it back to Montreal, forget U.S. national team fan fiction. I got some Jaquil Marshall-Ruddy Canadian national team fan fiction because I wanted to speak your language.
You're not talking Jules Anthony Volsant, then I'm not listening. I'm not going to go high level like that on Shaquille. I'm as torn as you are, Doyle, in which I think this team's better. I think they're more cohesive to start the year already. And I find it hard to think they're going to finish at a higher points level than last year just because of what we talked about with the jump in the, like, from a standings point of view, I think they're still around 7 to 9 at the end of this year. I think they're still knocking on the door of a playing game. I think it's right on this points number, whether it's 41 through 43. So I'm going to take under and just sort of hedge my bet there.
I'm under as well. I disagree with your view on take Doyle. And I just don't think that they have enough top end talent. Like, again, the collective is the idea. That's always what Montreal is going to be. They don't want to spend transfer fees on DPs. They don't want to sign DPs. And I just, but again, maybe it's worked in the past. I don't see that in 2025.
But Tom, they put up 43 points last year, and top end talent is Caden Clark and Jaquil Marshall-Ruddy and Jalen Neal not better than the players they were going to roll out there last year, or they did to start the year?
Look at the teams next to them. We're going to talk about New England. We're going to talk about Philly. Again, the other ones that are right above. Chicago's another one. There's just other teams that I have much higher ceilings, and I believe more in it.
So you might be right about higher ceilings. I think what goes sort of unnoticed about this Montreal team, I think they have a really high floor. Joel Waterman is a really good center back in
100%.
MLS. George Campbell, I think, is like really, really good. We saw it down the stretch last year, and then I think he really showed out for the national team. We all like Jalen Neal. It wouldn't shock us if he became, a high-level starter in this league. And then Piet and Saliba in central midfield, like that's a spine that makes a lot of sense, and it makes it hard to score goals against them. And I think if you have that, then I'm over. CF Montreal.
There he goes.
Love that.
Gosh, we're road tripping. We're taking Soccerwise to Montreal.
Let's
man.
go.
Are we going to go to the vodka bar?
It's pronounced, no, it's not vodka, it's whiskey. It's literally a Japanese whiskey bar.
Japanese
Montreal?
whiskey bar
Yeah, that's sick.
in Montreal. That's sick. All right, yeah.
The bars in Montreal are elite. So I would just like to say I'm the over on any bars based off Montreal food and experience as well.
Consumed.
I hope that I'm still able to get invited back after going under. I like a lot of this team. I know Weeby wants us to say Tom Pierce will have 37 assists this year as well as the resident British guy in our chat, but I'm finding it a little difficult.
Let me ask you this. If there's one young player on this team that you think is going to break out, other than Saliba, right? If there's one young player of the guys who are sort of, I don't want to call them retreads, but like on their second stop, whether it's Caden Clark or Marshall-Ruddy or Campbell or Neal or whoever, Bryce Duke even, who is that one young guy who's really going to pop?
I'm with you on Campbell. I really like George Campbell.
I'm a big fan of George Campbell as well. I think a good player on this team. I don't think we're talking like national team conversation with him.
See, I actually think we are. I think if middle of the season they're selling George Campbell for $4.5 million to Bordeaux. Well, Bordeaux got relegated, but like a bottom, bottom of the table league on team.
Administration,
right?
They're a semi-pro team right now, or whatever.
They do not have.
I was going to jump all over that.
Campbell, yeah.
Do you think that George Campbell's ceiling is better than Austin Trusty?
Yes.
Do you think it's better than Mark McKenzie?
Yeah, I think I do.
Okay.
I think I do.
Yeah, I'm not that high. I think he's going to be a very good MLS starter for a long time. I think he's going to be a guy that's around winning teams in MLS. I don't think he's going to push into there. I think Jalen Neal has that potential. And Jalen Neal playing in a 3 center back setup with Joel Waterman next to him, I love because he can go and find the game a little bit more and do some of the things he's elite at. Where last year he was asked to do all the things he wasn't elite at, and that was all he was asked to do for major stretches of the year for the Galaxy. So I'm really excited about him, and I think Duke's going to have a good year. Like I think Caden Clark looked great with the U.S. in the January camp. I think Bryce Duke's going to have a good year as well, but the answer is obviously Jules Anthony Vilsons. So
I can't believe neither of you went Dante Sealy.
I
After all of the
was thinking-
Dante Sealy
Oh my
content in preseason last year, he scored 1 free kick, and you guys were like best 11 left wing back.
that's because we're
let me
Scott
forget.
Sealy fans. You're just talking to 2 Scott Sealy fans. Cornell
true.
Glenn and Scott Sealy up top. That's the only team I need.
41.5 points. So we got 3 teams. We got Nashville SC. We have the completely remade New England Revolution, and we have the Philadelphia Union. Who wants it?
I'm going to start under Nashville, over New England. I'm tenuous on that because I like the pieces. You never know exactly how it's going to fit. Philadelphia Union over 41.5. Of these three, that's the one I feel strongest about.
Tell us
Really?
why.
I think that, again, the infrastructure in Philadelphia has been so good. I know that Jim Curtin was a huge
Yeah, they
part of
fired the
that.
coach.
So
they
again,
they knocked down their main bridge. That's not infrastructure. That's wanton demolition.
Did they start the season without a coach? Has Bradley Carnell ever coached anybody before?
Okay.
Like, you're acting as if there's nobody's there. It's not an interim to the interim.
Hey, the interim to the interim went undefeated in like 5 games, so it's not the worst system.
Last year, again, I would have done what Jim Curtin did in tweaking the game model and changing it. They saw it different ways. This season, the thing that I'm most certain about is they're going to be top 5 in all of the pressing metrics. And when they've been that, they've been one of the best teams in the league. I don't think that they're going to be that. I'm not saying that. Over 41.5 points feels pretty safe to me. And particularly if they bring in another DP forward, because then they'll have Mikel Ura and Ty Baribo or Damiani as 2 of those 3 will start. And then you kind of go on further down the list, going further down the team, that I just think that there are enough good players and with the system and everything being aligned and getting those metrics up, because Doyle, you like one of your best takes is like that always works, except if it's 5%. You lose 5% of that, it's awful. That's what happened last year. They lost 5% of it, and the wheels came off. This year, whether they're fun to watch or not, that's going to be there.
It's funny because the argument is they're going to change what they do from last year, but then the other argument is the underlying numbers last year said that they should have been way better than they were. Right?
Yeah.
Like they were the biggest outlier in the standings in a negative way. So it's hard for me to then make the argument they're going to be better because of that, except they're going to do different things. I think part of the issue is like they're just going to play a bunch of kids, which is great, and it should be. That doesn't really win normally. So my guess is Philly's going to be better off in 2026 because of the year they had in 2025, but I don't think they're going to be super competitive in 2025.
I want to push back on that, Gus. Like, what kids? Most of this roster is in
Sullivan.
So you're building this on a 15-year-old player if he's going to play. Like, how many minutes is he going to play?
CJ only.
If it's CJ only,
look at our
then
depth
we're
charts.
okay. If it's Ed Davis and CJ only, we're okay. Tom, wasn't one of the reasons Bradley Carnell was brought in was to make sure that they push their young players into the first team so they can sell them?
The first priority is playing high pressing transition energy drink soccer.
Okay. One of my other main issues is center back. It was just a huge strength for them in all the years under Jim Curtin and Blake's performances as well. And I don't know that all of that cover is still there. And I don't know that the goal scoring is that much higher. So listen, this might be because I'm doing our research for the, to find podcasts and whatever that maybe some I don't know. I listened to Views from the Bridge from September, which they had a conversation with 6 weeks left in the season where they said, does anyone want Philly to make the playoffs? And they talked about it for an hour. And I listened to the entire thing. And most of them were like, nah, I don't know. Who cares? So maybe that's affecting my mindset right now. But
brutal. And now they got the Eagles at least, but now they got the Sixers to deal with. So
go Birds.
Yeah. I'm concerned about center back. I don't know anything about this Argentinian fellow they brought in, other than the fact that he looks like he's about 145 pounds.
It worked for Tomas Avilas.
Yeah, fair. No, it didn't. Glesnes was terrible last year. Yeah, he and Elliott both made like really uncharacteristic issues. D-mid kind of fell apart when Jose Martinez, stopped being as interested, like that 5%. And look, man, Leon Flock was a not insignificant piece of why all the pressing and creating turnovers and transition-based play, he was a not insignificant piece of why that all worked. And we don't know if they're going to be able to replace that. And then there's like, okay, Ty Baribo was prime Luis Suarez for 2 months. Was that real? Are they good? Like this Uruguayan forward, is he going to adjust right away? Daniel Gazdag, is he going to get 16 more penalties to convert this? I'm kind of leaning more towards Tom, where this is probably going to be an over because the game model is resilient. But I can see the other direction too. Like I can say, like they don't have the talent, and that's gonna kill them.
So where did you land? Because I wrote you down, erased it, moved you, and then moved you back.
Where did you guys land?
I went under. Tom went over.
I'll go over.
Okay. Cheers to that.
What about New England and Nashville? I'm over on New England, under on Nashville.
You got to tell me why you're over on New England.
I'm also over on New England.
I like
Right,
the talent.
then you tell me. Shut up, Tom. Dave, you tell me why.
You asked me to, and I started to answer.
I'm going to choose to believe that enough of the new pieces fit together. And it's easier for me to believe that can work for a team to be semi-competitive because Carlos Gil is the center of all of it. No one has to be the best player on the field. I think Leo Campagna is going to score a ton of goals. I think he's going to show the things he did at his best when it looked like he was going to be the starter for a team that was a consistent playoff contender in Major League Soccer. So I think already you have a spine that is better than it was the last few years, and I think can fit in pretty well, even though you have two new center backs, which worries me. And I think that's really tough to deal with. Brandon Bai comes back. Andrew Farrell can rotate in and out of those spots early in the season while you're still seeing who can, pick it up on the fly and who can get comfortable. I already like this central midfield more than I've liked a Rev center mid in 4 or 5 years because of the moves they've made. So all of that combined, and then you just have the potential of what some of the other attacking signings can be, and that can be really good. But I think the spine of this team is good. Peyton Miller is going to be awesome this year. Brandon Bai is going to be back and healthy. There's a lot of pieces to like, and the reality that if you give any platform to Carlos Gil, you're going to be competitive. I can't see anything also because of the sunset.
Golden hour for David Goss. I was gonna say that. You're looking handsome, David.
Doyle, over or under?
I think I'm going slightly under. I think they'll be a better team, but you realize this team could 10 points better than last year, and that's still under.
Yeah,
what we're talking. This team was brutal last year, and if you look at the two positions that are the locus of value that is created on the field, which is center forward and goalkeeper. And to me, those are two pretty big question marks. Aljaz Ivic started off pretty well, but he didn't finish well last season. And Leo Campana looks the part, but he's never been the part week after week after week. And then, Langoni and Shankalai are question marks. Heel is solidly in his 30s. And then the other big part is look, man, Caleb Porter's got 2 MLS Cups, and that's cool, but he's missed the playoffs 4 out of the last 5 seasons. He's been a manager in MLS, and he has had some pretty talented teams over that tenure. So for a guy with that track record to have to pull this all together when we're talking 8 new starters, over the past 12 months.
Yeah.
It just seems like a lot of variables that if 1 or 2 go wrong, then the whole thing falls apart. So I'm going to go under on the Revs.
Yeah, and I like both center backs individually based on their profiles. There is the worry that it takes either one. If it takes either one of them a little while to get up to speed, which wouldn't be abnormal in any way, and they have 2 high, probably max TAM-ish new center backs. Again, I think that they both look like good players, but those are 2 unknowns, and it's not even like you're pairing it with an MLS experienced center back that they're going to come into. It's 2 of them. So that is a worry as well, but I think that there's enough talent there. And again, this is all on Caleb Porter. This is their team. This is his team.
Yeah, I mean, he said it to his credit. He said it in
yes.
preseason. He's like, we had good players last year. They weren't the right players. This is my team now. And he's supremely confident that he's going to, get it right with this group of players. So if he does, I hope he has a laminated copy of this podcast.
This over
More
under.
steam on that one. Well, no, Josh Wolf is in Houston now, and we went under on Houston. So
that's true.
I can't believe we missed
that. I hope he's listening. And then the third one was Nashville. Someone else start.
So Nashville, I'm going to say over, but I still don't think they make the playoffs.
Okay.
So last year they finished on 36 points. You set the line at 41.5. I'm going to say that they go over, and it's not enough to make the postseason this year.
Where are they 6 points better than last year?
So one would be Walker's healthier, and 2 would be in midfield, and 3 would be these new 2 attacking pieces they brought in, who I think make them harder to play against while also making them easier for Hani Mukhtar to be creative. I think there are pieces in this team now that he can play off of. So at the end under Gary Smith, there were so many straight line runners and like workers. It wasn't enough to then attract defensive attention, except if Schaffelberg broke out into the open field. So I think the pieces they've brought in now are going to give him the ability to play off players, whether they can beat guys 1v1 or just be a give and go option for him and open up the game. And so I think they're cleaner defensively. I think they play more of the game in the attacking third. And I think they have more options in those areas to make them more dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, I see it. I get it. Again, I think this has more to do with I like other teams in the East that are around them more, and I feel like I have less questions about them. There is a scenario where Hani is back to best 11 Hani, and Walker Zimmerman is something close to best 11 Walker Zimmerman, and those are the 2 ingredients that, if you have that, the team's going to be really solid, no matter what else, right? So there's a scenario with that is I just don't think that's the most likely outcome.
Yeah, I'm with Tom on that. And the other part of this is like a lot of it relies upon the health and productivity of 34, 35-year-old Gaston Brugman. And he was awesome in MLS Cup and deserved MLS Cup MVP. But that's very different than doing it and having 32. Okay.
Yeah,
well,
and he turns 33 in September. So it's
okay. So he's a
season.
Wait,
he's
is
a young
6 weeks
32.
to 8 weeks, 6 weeks to 8 weeks now, or is it 6 weeks to 8 weeks from 6 weeks to 8 weeks away?
It's 60 to 90 days. But the point is, this is a guy who missed 2,000 minutes last year.
That's fair.
Like, he played like
Injury concerns are
1,200
fair.
minutes. Yeah. Like he's not been the healthiest guy over
Yeah.
the past half decade. And a lot of it relies upon him. And then they don't, like, to your point, they have like a lot of straight line runners, and the guys who aren't proven. Like, I want Johnny Perez to be awesome. I want him to be 8 goals and 6 assists and adding that third heat to the attack and pulling something away from Hani so that Hani can cook. But like, it feels like wish casting. So, and also like this team could be 10% better, and that's not insignificant, and that's still just 40 points.
Yeah.
So I'm going under.
Yeah. I fall around there, but I'm excited to watch Johnny Russell tear it up for Nashville. I'm just putting it out there in the universe. I think it's the right move. Make it happen, everyone.
On to our bottom 5.
We're into our bottom 5. Man, this feels wrong. It feels too high. San Jose Earthquakes, 38.5 points. This is almost entirely because I'm a believer in Bruce Arena. He fixes stuff that is broken.
Yep. And I think that's the respect for him. But I agree, this is too high. I'm going under. If they're able to move on from Hernan Lopez and bring in another DP, maybe we can talk again. But you don't bring in Chicho Arango and Joseph Martinez for neither of them to be starting. So I'm assuming that they're going to be out of a 4-4-2 or 4-2-2. It is going to be very difficult to defend with those two
That's
guys.
going to be miserable. That's going to be miserable.
But again, like, I will trust Bruce that, like, if he does pivot to just one starting center forward to try to keep a lid on whichever one of them isn't starting, but that's not going to be easy. Again,
I do chicken and rice.
I like some of these individual pieces. I'm hoping like hell that there's going to be just 1 year in Christian Espinosa's prime where this team is actually really good, so the rest of the league can really understand how good this dude is. But I don't think it's this year.
Let me ask you this. Would you have more confidence or less if they hadn't signed Joseph?
I like the Joseph signing, just to have another goal scorer. It's just I think that this commits you to 2 center forward. So
Yeah.
I just don't think that it fits.
I would have more.
with the team.
I would have more confidence if they hadn't signed Joseph, even though he adds value to the team.
Yeah, I see what you're
But
saying.
like signing him says they're going to play a 4-4-2, and I don't think they can play a 4-4-2 with this bunch. I think they'll just get ripped up.
I don't understand the thought process that is Joseph getting signed on a 1-year deal with a club option because he doesn't really have any other choices of where to go dictates the like culture of the team and sets the lineup.
Bruce wanted him. Bruce drove the signing. Bruce convinced Joseph when he called him.
But Bruce can stop playing him.
Sure,
Like,
but I doubt that's the
doesn't have
plan.
anything long term invested in him. He can say, "I brought you in because I wanted you. You don't do the things I want, so you're not in this team anymore." I don't feel like they have to play a certain way because of him. I feel like now, Doyle, I agree with you. Like, if they hadn't signed him, then I wouldn't have to deal with any of this thought process, and it would be easier. But I still don't know. I feel like it's over-indexed, the amount that Joseph sets the tone of the way this team has to play.
God, he brought in the Weeby word. Over-indexed. That was really good. That brought me back, man.
I was like, did somebody say domino and I missed it? I was so happy to say that on CBS.
So
tonight
are
for the
you?
boys.
So are you over? Yeah. Congratulations. That was a big moment for you. We were all very proud of you in the chat, Tom. Goss, are you over then?
It's such a huge jump. It's basically doubling their points total from last year
Yeah.
if I take the over. It just feels like such a massive jump, but also I can't remember a year where Bruce Arena picked a roster and put it together and it didn't come over what that number line would be.
Yeah, man.
So that's the part that I'm having trouble with of like, there's more talent than there was. It fits together a little bit cleaner. So no, I'm going to go under.
Yeah,
Next.
I hate myself. I think I gotta go under too. And like I don't feel good about it because it's Bruce and he makes the playoffs every single year.
Yep.
But it's just the West is brutal and I'm so nervous about the 4-4-2 thing. 37 points. San Diego FC and Sporting Kansas City. And for transparency's sake, one of the people I asked to look at my lines ahead of time said that Sporting KC was 5 points too high.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm under on both. This is me writing a check that I have to cash now for all the overs I had earlier in the Western Conference. Yeah, for Kansas City, I love the Dejan Jovic signing, and I think Manu Garcia is going to be another really good signing. That doesn't change my thoughts about their defensive spine, and that's why I'm under there.
That's why I don't love the Dejan Jovic signing. Because the marginal upgrade over Willie Agata, if it even is an upgrade,
Never take the out.
is not worth what you take off the table if you had just gone out and signed a killer DP mid, which is what this team needs.
Yeah, you had a high level TAM player at a good contract, a borderline DP player at the center forward position. Like you won that, and then you went out and doubled down and spent more money in that spot. I agree with you, and so I'm gonna go. Well, we're not even on KC now, though. Aren't we on San Diego?
He
No,
changed the number.
Okay. So what number are you at with KC? What did we end up with the line?
37.5.
Okay, I'll go under.
And then San Diego, again, I'm under just because there's not enough room to keep going over on all these. I don't think that they're going to be like really bad.
They're not going to be FC Cincinnati.
I don't think that at all. I think that there is big upside in Chucky Lozano and Andres Dreyer. I love both of those signings. If both of them hit like to whatever, a B plus of whatever you'd expect for them, even if they struggle in central defense or defensive depth or
Goalkeeper.
any other worries that you would have for a general
Center
expansion
forward.
team. Like those two special players can cover over cracks if they are
Playmaking.
both really good. Huh?
Doyle's naming every aspect of a soccer team and saying
So,
that maybe all of that falls through.
I'm saying I'm still under, but those are the ways it goes over, and that is a viable path.
Doyle?
Dave? No. No, absolutely not.
I'm going to go under as well. I think there'll be things that are fun to watch about this team. I'm excited about like this market. I'm excited about the fan base, stuff like that. I think starting against the Galaxy is cool. I wouldn't be shocked if a month into the season, really like this center back pairing. And like it's a good set of like Andres Reyes experience in this league, goes out, wins battles, Patty McNair, a more experienced player outside this league.
You've always been a big Patty McNair guy. I remember in the green room at the old studio, you would tell stories of Patty McNair.
Tom's been talking about Patty McNair for 6 months on
this
this
on
show,
me.
and I want to make fun of him every time, and I'm like, I don't need to go there. But now that Patty McNair is a real part of Major League Soccer, it's going to become a bit more of an issue. Me and Patty, we used to just go tonk up at the loo and all that type of stuff and whatever else we would do. So I'm going to go under, but I'm excited to watch this team, I think, at the same time.
I love Luca De La Torre. When he has been healthy for club and country, I think he has been so much fun to watch. It's just like when he has been healthy is it's the operative phrase right there. It has not happened all that often. And I think he's the type of ball progressing number 8 who can make guys like Dreyer and Chucky look so much better. We just don't know, if this guy can hold up for a full season. I think he's only done it once or twice in his career, and he's 26. The other thing is look, Marcus Ingvartsen has been a pretty good center forward for a long time. He has one double-digit goal season in his career, and he's almost 30. This is the team that Jeremy Ebobisse should have ended up on.
Yeah.
It would have been perfect. Or this is a team that should, do what they can to get Duncan McGuire, because I think they need that. The rest of it it feels more thought out than most expansion teams, right? It feels like Tyler Heaps has a vision, and Mikey Veras is definitely on board, and they're being really meticulous and thoughtful in how they're implementing that, and they're not going to panic if things go wrong in the first 6 weeks, and that's good, and that gives me confidence for the long term. But it still feels like an expansion team. It still feels like a team that's going to have more bad days than good in 2025. So I'm going under as well.
But if Anis Saidi gets any minutes and scores a goal, then I'm turned back around. I'm coming all the way back out. So just so that they know that, Mikey Barris, if you want me on your side, throw him out there. Game 1.
DC United, 36.5 points. This is a lower total than what they had last year. It feels like they got worse in the offseason. Their best playmaker in terms of volume is still a DP on their roster. He's just playing for a different team. Their best playmaker in terms of per 90 was sold for $1.50 to Colorado Rapids. Their best player, full stop, is in his mid-30s. I don't know, man. I don't know. 36.5 is a little bit high.
This is where we are in the podcast. We're an hour and 50 minutes in, where it just goes, I don't know, man. Under. That's where your analysis ended. I'm going over. I'm zagging on this one.
I was gonna zag. Can I zag?
Well, I zagged first.
Do we zag into each other?
Was that a sexual reference?
No, not really. But if that's where you want to go, then Tommy does what he wants. I have a ton of belief in the DC United plays hard.
That was the most awkward moment I've ever experienced on a podcast, and I was on a podcast with Weeby for 10 years.
Weeby's coming on, by the way, next week. He's coming. He wants to come, and he is coming on this show. So just so you're aware of that, Weeby is going to be a part of this because he wants to come. In talking about DC United, though, I think this is the try-hard team. I just think there's too many guys on this team where it's no coach is ever going to believe in me, and now Troy Lissane's giving me a starting number 10 role? What else are you going to do? And on top of that, because I already did my preview with this one, with Gregory Roach, who does a great job covering the team in DC. Then on top of that, you have Christian Benteke. It's very rare to have a player like that on a team like this. And so it's if some of it works, he can put it away and get you some points. So I'm going to go over, but out of the playoffs.
Tom, you were also zagging?
I zagged first. Over.
Just on vibes, no analysis at all?
I think Goss hit a lot of it. And, yeah, the clicky one, I would have preferred, if they're still paying him to be a DP, that he would still be here. A lot of it had to do with set pieces as well. And yes, I'm worried about chance creation in general, but guess what? You have a cheat code in Christian Benteke's forehead, and the defense is going to be better than last year, and that's, I think, what I'm putting more stock in than my attacking worries.
Did you call him Clicky?
Yep.
Yeah.
So you're just British homeboys with Mateus Click?
Is that all right with you?
Yeah, no, I'm based on
the people that I talk
jealous.
to call him Clicky.
Yeah, I didn't realize you were getting
He's
Polish
dressed
sausage
like a
delivered
Molly
directly to
dealer
your
from
house.
Leeds, so like he's probably goes back.
Yeah. So Doyle, you were under?
I'm going under. I just think they're going to lose the talent battle basically every week until they meet the next team, which is Toronto FC, the 30th team in our standings, 33.5. Feels high. Under. This is not going to be a good team.
Whew, it's a tough one. Yeah, I'm gonna go under as well.
I can play devil's advocate. This is let's go through the positive scenario. I can tell you for a fact they're close to signing 2 new players, so there's going to be new additions, which is needed.
Did they find them off of the transfer market?
No, they didn't.
They actually scouted.
It's
a new era.
To explain why this hasn't happened
Jonathan
yet.
Lewis one of them? Has to be one of them.
Over.
Not to my knowledge. I mean, he could be, but that's not who kind of I'm thinking of. And to explain why they haven't made moves or a ton of moves yet, it's they were assuming and hoping that Lorenzo Insigne was going to leave. They brought him. He said, "I don't want to go to Middle East." They said, "Cool, we'll focus on Europe." They brought him an offer from Italy. They brought him one from Spain. They brought him one from Turkey. He turned all 3 down, despite that Toronto would have bought him out as part of the financial package to move him on, and he would have made an overwhelming majority of the money that he is currently owed. And he said no.
If they were going to buy him out, why didn't they just buy him out?
I don't know. I mean,
they should have gotten Rodolfo Borrell on the phone with him, and he could have, because he loves to provide.
They should have gotten Rodolfo Borrell on the phone with River Plate. Be like, hey, Lorenzo.
Yeah, let's do this together. No, so again, so that explains why the roster is where it is. If you want to go through the most positive outcome for this team, I think that it's Bernadeschi is really, really good, and he's playing as a winger, and he carries the attack. Doesn't matter who the center forward is. Center forward will get goals. Theo Corbinu, let's say that he has a very good season. I like the midfield trio. The defense still needs work. More work is coming there, but one more center back and one center forward. Is there anything that I could do to talk you into it?
Do you like that midfield trio?
I don't hate it. I do like it. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't hate it last year. I thought Debbie Flores was one of the better signings.
Yeah.
I think he does his job, and obviously I'm a sucker for Jonathan Osorio. He could play point guard for the Knicks, and I'd be like buying the jersey. So that part I don't dislike. Longstaff doesn't cover as much ground as I'd like, and then doesn't do enough in possession. But if you told me that they had a center back that I really trusted alongside the ones that are currently there, then you might be able to convince me a little bit. I like Corbino. I like that signing. I think it's a good talent add. It's the type of player Toronto should be bringing in. It's just, what do? You show up and the best player on the team doesn't want to be there, but doesn't want to leave, and everyone else just deals with it?
No, I don't know.
It seems miserable. From the outside looking in, it seems miserable.
So Tom, you're over?
No, I said I'm under. I said I'm playing devil's advocate, because we just all sat and looked
All
at
right,
each
the
other.
line is now 29.5.
Can't do that. We already did it. Sorry.
The line is 29.5. The sportsbook made a last minute change.
Tom's not going to let you spin him on that one.
Nice try. Already locked in the bet. If it was 29, I don't know, man. I think
I would still go under. Yeah. I think I would still go under. I think this is going to be a not great team. I
have a lot of respect for Robin Fraser that they're not going to roll over at the end of the season like they did in multiple of the previous seasons.
Yeah, and I would say I've said this about a couple of teams where I've gone under or whatever. I won't be shocked if when we do this in a year, I'll like a lot of what I see with Toronto. Like Robin Fraser has gotten to set his style. He's found the pieces in this group that are usable, and they've gotten out of some of these contracts and able to move on to the next generation. I'm just not sure that I'm feeling that at this exact moment. So congratulations, Toronto. You've got your laminator ready. You are going to be able to use this to motivate you for the rest of the season. We're done. We made it. You guys thought this was long? Imagine 30 previews individually of every single team.
Let me ask you guys this. Over under on the number of teams my over-unders are within 5 points of their total. I'm going to set it at 17.5.
I'm going to say over this year. I think there's less bottom falls out unexpectedly teams. So I think there's more teams that are in the stratospheres that you discussed.
I'd go under there, and that does, like, I think that there's just the nature of it that you have to put 14 teams in a 10-point bundle, and inevitably 3 of them will go 5 points beyond, and 3 will go 5. But, like, just the nature of MLS, the average, the mean, doesn't mean that that's where it's going to go. So I think that I'm going to go under on that.
I'm tracking this. We're going to check back in on this one.
Don't worry. I think Morgan told me to take notes. I wrote everything down except Sporting Kansas City. Where are you guys? Where'd you fall? Both under?
I'm under.
Okay. 37.5. There we go. And on that note, we will be back a ton. We've got season previews that are going to roll out tomorrow and then all weekend, kind of. We're going to be back, myself and Tom, to do our watchability rankings. We've got some other award stuff that we have to talk through before all the big players sign and all of that. And then we've got our Golden Boot Draft coming up next week. MLS kicks off around the corner. We've got CONCACAF Champions Cup next week. So, like, a lot to talk about, a lot to do, a lot to look into. We did a big show yesterday about the She Believes Cup roster, so you can go listen to that one as well. And to all of you who are ridiculous enough for still being here in the live chat or still listening via podcast, you have found your home. You are just as sick as all of us, and we appreciate you for it.